Hey guys, welcome to day 11 of our resurrection eggs. I am so excited that we are close to wrapping up, right? We only have one more egg after today. And so before we learn what is in day 11, let's recap. We've been doing that every day, and so actually you probably can do this by yourself, but I'm going to walk you through it just in case. Okay, so our first egg was the donkey, right? And Jesus rode into town on a donkey because he was a king, or is a king. And in those days, that's the people that rode on donkeys. And when he was coming into town, the people would shout, "Hosanna, Hosanna!" And they waved palm branches because Hosanna means save us. And so they trusted that Jesus was a king who was going to save them. Then we have the money. And the money represents Jesus' friend named Judas, right? And Judas made a really bad decision. He betrayed Jesus for some money, right? He told the guards where they could find Jesus to arrest him. Bad choice, dude. Then we have the cup, right? And the cup represents the last meal that Jesus ate on earth. And he ate this with his friends, his disciples, and that's when he tried to tell them, like, guys, I'm going to die. And I want you to be ready for it, and I want you to remember me when I'm gone. Okay? After dinner that night, he took his friends and they went to a place and prayed together, into a garden and prayed. And that's where Jesus prayed, God, I don't want to do this, right? This is going to be really hard. It's going to hurt a lot. I don't want to die. Can we do this some other way? But then by the end of his prayer, he had changed his mind and he said, actually, God, no matter how hard this is, I'm going to do this because I know that it's what you want us to do. And so sometimes that's what we have to do with God. Then, as they were praying, they heard the soldiers coming, right? And the soldiers arrested Jesus in that garden and took him to a man named Pilate, and that's who charged him and decided that he would be crucified. And so that night they started whipping him and torturing him with a whip, calling him names, spitting on him, awful things that no king should endure. Right? And then we have the rooster. And the rooster represents another one of Jesus' friends named Peter. Peter was like Jesus' ride or die best friend, right? He told Jesus, like, Jesus, I don't care what's about to happen. You say you're going to die, I'm going to die with you. You say you're doing this, I'm doing it with you, right? He was like, I will always have your back, Jesus. Jesus was like, actually, I hate to tell you, but before the rooster crows or before tomorrow morning, you're going to deny that you even know me. Not just one time, but 3 times, right? And Jesus was right. Peter did that. Then we come to the crown, and the crown is sort of interesting because kings wear crowns, right? And so the same people that had called Jesus a king when he rode into town on a donkey were making fun of him now. They were calling him a king as a joke. They said, you think you're a king? You're no king. A king would be more powerful than this. And they placed this crown on his head as another way to torture him and to make fun of him. And then he was on the cross, right? We talk about the nails and how they nailed them into his wrist and into his feet. And that's where he died, on the cross, so that we could be forgiven. Which is really powerful that he would choose to go through so much suffering for us. And then Ms. Marquina talked about the spear. And the spear was like their last attempt to make sure that Jesus was totally dead. They stabbed him in the side because they wanted to make sure that this guy had no power, that all of his power was taken from them because they were the ones that wanted to be in control. They're the ones that wanted to have all the power. And so they wanted to make sure that he was really dead. Then Miss Rebecca talked to us about the linen cloth yesterday, and that represents another friend of Jesus, Joseph, who took his body and wanted to take care of him. Took his body after he had died, wrapped it in a linen cloth, and then put it in a tomb. And that's where we pick up our story today, right? For egg number 11, let's see what's in it. Ooh, a stone. So let's read to find out what the stone is about. Okay, this is Matthew chapter 27, verses 59, and we're going to read through 66, okay? So it says, Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a long sheet of linen cloth. He placed it in a tomb which had been carved out of the rock. So the tomb sort of looked like a cave, you can imagine it that way. And then he rolled this great stone in front of it across the entrance, and then he left. Both Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting across from the tomb, and they watched this all happen. So his friends were there. His friends knew he's in this tomb, okay? And it says on the next day, on the Sabbath, which is just a fancy word for day of rest, right? Sometimes we call it day of rest Sunday, but back then it was on Saturday. It says the leading priests and Pharisees went to see Pilate. That's the guy that crucified him, right? They told him, Sir, remember what that deceiver once told us? That after 3 days he would rise from the dead? We request that you seal the tomb until the 3rd day. This will prevent his disciples from coming and stealing his body and then telling everyone that he's raised from the dead. If that happens, we'll be worse off than when we started. So Pilate replied, Take guards and secure it the best that you can. So they sealed the tomb and posted guards to protect it. So they had everything twisted, right? They thought that they were the powerful ones, that Jesus wasn't powerful, and then they even called him the deceiver, that he was the one that was lying about raising from the dead. But they wanted to take all the steps to make sure that he could not get out of that tomb. So they rolled it up with that big stone, and then they posted soldiers outside of it. Some think as many as 16 soldiers were standing outside that tomb to make sure that Jesus' body was not going anywhere. So can you imagine this? This would have been really sad. Like, all of his friends saw him die on Friday night, and then some of them saw him go into this tomb, his body be placed in this tomb, and now it's guarded, and there's no way that he could get out. And so they were probably confused. I'm sure they missed him, and they were just sad. Like, this is really it. It's really over. We thought that he was the king. We thought he was the one that was going to save us. How can a dead man save us? It didn't make any sense. But we know that that's not the end of the story, right? Because we have one more egg, and I can't wait to see what's inside of it. But before that, I want to get my little helper, Nehemiah, to say the memory verse for you guys, because he's been learning it just like you, and I am so impressed that he knows it. So I'm going to go find him and have him say the memory verse, okay?
Why are you looking for a weapon here? This is the place for the dead. These are not here. He risen from the table 5 to 6.
Way to go. Whoa, didn't he do such a good job? I was so proud of him when he told me that he knew the verse. I couldn't believe it. So I hope you know it too, and tomorrow we will find out what's in our last egg. So hope you guys enjoy, and happy Easter.